that you keep your arms of safety around them. Remember Miss Patty, Lord Jesus Christ, and how you've just blessed her, Lord, and seems like when one door closes, another one opens for her, and she gets good news, Lord, that you would just continue to help her, Lord Jesus Christ, in her sickness. Be with Miss Dawn. She's back in the hospital, Lord, and John, as they go through her sickness and illness, Lord, that you would just touch her body, and Lord, that she could be coming back to church. Just remember all the ones that are going back to school, the parents, Lord, the decisions that they make, Lord, and the children, Dave's children, everyone, Lord, that they would just, you keep your hands.
All right. It's kind of weird to hear my dad call me Brother Ben. But he has called me a lot worse. Yes, sir. And I've called him a lot worse, I'm sure. But, all right. Well, it's the first time I ever wore this thing. Can you hear me okay? All right. Kyle, do you care to flip the lights off? I'm going to teach you guys like I do on Wednesday nights, and so I've got my PowerPoint and stuff like that up here, so I figured it'd be easier just to, because it doesn't fit all on our screens, which we are still continuing to work on, but huge strides at what we've done here at the church to be able to kind of take a PowerPoint, plug it in right here, and I can control everything and hopefully take a little bit of stress off of Brother Gary. So unfortunately tonight you have me. I'm sure you were expecting Preacher Dwight, but I am able to teach tonight partly because about 10 or 12 of our teens are at the missions trip. So Henry and Joe are the only two faithful ones to come here this evening to hear me. So with my teaching style, it's kind of an open discussion. I do that a lot. I would expect the same participation of what I get from our youth group, which is 0. But I don't know, Miss Ann may give me some of her insight and wisdom as we go along. So this is the lesson here tonight. It's not much, some things that I've been working on, and I've just titled it Jesus is Our PowerPoint _ Ben's really cool lesson. So power source. Did I say PowerPoint? Starting out good. All right, so I'm going to focus on the book of Judges, and we're going to kind of go from Judges over into the New Testament, but basically to kind of set up this lesson here tonight is just kind of showing what the book of Judges is. So the book of Judges is a historical, theological account of the leaders, which is called Judges, whom God raises up to deliver the Israelites from oppression after they had settled in the promised land. And it illustrates a repeating cycle, and that repeating cycle is sin, oppression, repentance, deliverance, and then peace. It's also kind of a sombering book, if you ever read into it, that shows the dangers of spiritual compromise and how important it is to remain faithful and true to God. There's also some really cool stories in Judges. I don't know if you know these or not, but there was a man named Ehud. Some really great names in the book of Judges, but Ehud was a left-handed man. He was from the tribe of Benjamin. God had chosen him to deliver Israel. I guess left-handed, some spiritual gurus here may know this, left-handed men in the Bible was a rarity. You know, maybe they were kind of looked at in a special light. You know, maybe that today people are right and left-handed. We have batters that can hit, both ways, right and left-handed. But back then, a left-handed person was kind of considered to be a novelty, a special person. So Ehud had a encounter with a person back there. He went to King, I think it's Eglon, and that king. This has nothing to do with the lesson. I'm just telling you how cool Judges is. Eglon was a heavyset fella, and Ehud had a spear, a sword of some fashion, and jabbed it in the side, and his fat just overwhelmed the sword and just kind of sucked it up, and he pulled his sword out, and then his bowels came out. So really cool. When you talk to kids, that kind of gets them engaged. You a big fat guy, you stab him and poop comes out. So that's kind of how I teach right now. So I just thought I would kind of put that out there of what you can expect tonight in this lesson. The second is the second story in Judges is Jephthah. I love that story. Jephthah was a son of a prostitute. He was exiled. He during exile, he became kind of a strong warrior. Throughout that time, Israel had turned away from God and started worshiping false gods, and as punishment for that, God allowed the Amorites to oppress them in some fashion. So the elders of the church decide that they go out and they want to have Jephthah to come back and lead this person already exiled. And now they're going to ask them to come back and lead the army, which he does. And he says, hey, God, if you give me victory, the very first thing that I see when I get home, I will present as a sacrifice to you. I'm assuming he thinks that's probably a goat, a cow, dog, I don't know. It's his daughter that comes out to greet him. He is in shambles, knowing that he has promised God to vow to sacrifice that one thing, and it is his daughter who comes out to greet him. So again, another fascinating story of Judges. Then you have Samson, which we all know, that story of Samson, how God uses that strength, how he falls into temptation. So the book of Judges, over the last couple of years, I've really enjoyed learning about different things. But it comes down to a couple of things. The book of Judges is basically this. It starts out, there's the sin cycle. This is what's repeated throughout the whole book of Judges. Israel sins. They worship idols. They disobey God. Then God allows oppression by the enemies. Then Israel cries out for help. Then God raises a judge to deliver them. Then peace returns while the judge lives. The judge dies, and then the cycle repeats. It goes back to Israel sinning. It goes back to worshiping false idols and disobeying God. Then it goes to God allowing that to happen due to their disabilities, their disobedience. Israel cries out for help again. God raises a judge. Peace is there. Judge dies. Israel sins. It's an ongoing process throughout the book of Judges. So I want to look at a couple of things. We're going to look at Judges chapter 2, verse 1 through 3. Then we're going to look at verse 17. We're going to look at verse 19. And this is going to set up kind of where I want to go. But Judges 2, 1 through 3, it says, an angel of the Lord came up from Gilgal to Bochum and said, I made you to go up out of Egypt, and I brought you unto the land which I swear unto your fathers, and I said, I will never break my covenant with you. And ye shall make no league with the inhabitants of this land. Ye shall throw down their altars, but ye have not obeyed my voice. Why have ye done this? Wherefore I also said, I will not drive them out from before you, but they shall be as thorns in your sides, and their gods shall be a snare unto you. I kind of pause there at the very end there in verse 3 where it says, their gods shall be a snare to you. So what this is setting up is God sends a messenger. This is an angel. that God has sent to speak to the Israelites, reminding them of his faithfulness and kind of confronting them in their disobedience that they are having here. He reminds them that he's brought them out of Egypt. He's led them to the land of promise. He has verified his covenant, saying that I will never break my covenant with you. He's kind of told them to say, they were told to destroy the pagan altars, make no commandments with the people and their gods, but instead they've disobeyed and they've compromised with the Canaanites. And that's what it's looking like there in verse 3. It says, wherefore I also said, I will not drive them out from before you. I'm not going to get rid of them, but they shall be as thorns in your side, and their gods will become a snare or a trap for you. So there's fair warning. An angel of the Lord comes down and verifies everything that God has said, kind of gives them a fair warning of what's going on and to be prepared. But unfortunately, that is falling on deaf ear. This kind of sets up the whole book of Judges. It's basically the warning that partial disobedience is still disobedience, and that it will ultimately lead to spiritual danger. To take a look now, going into Judges 2, verse 17, it says, and yet they would not hearken unto their judges, but they went a-whoring after other gods, and bowed themselves unto them. They turned quickly out of the way which their fathers walked in, obeying the commandments of the Lord, but they did not so. So this verse is basically explaining how the Israelites has responded back to God after he has raised up a judge to save them. So that's in this process, right? Israel sins, oppression comes, they cry for help, God gives a judge, everything's okay, judge dies, Israel sins. So right now we're in verse 17 where he says they're not even going to hearken unto the judges that God has given to him, but they went whoring after other gods and bowed themselves unto them. They turned quickly out of the way which their fathers walked in, obeying the commandments of the Lord, but they did not also. It's showing them that they're knowledgeable enough to know what to do. That's what their fathers before them has instilled into them, how to live, how to worship, what's right and what's wrong. So even with God's help and leadership, their hearts chase after other gods. And then in verse 19 it says, and it came to pass when the judge was dead, that they returned, and they corrupted themselves more than their fathers, and following other gods to serve them, and to bow down unto them. They ceased not from their own doings, nor from their stubborn way. After the judge has passed away, the judge has died, Israel falls back into sin, and is often worse than what it was the previous cycle. They chased after idols and abandoned God's way. Back then, you're looking at child sacrifice, you're looking at some sort of prostitution. It's just completely and utterly sin, carnality, wickedness that is out there that happens. So I wanted to take these verses and I wanted to verify that cycle that I showed you of how this happens with idolatry and judges and what goes on. So not a very positive lesson. A lot of people are looking at me like, all right, this is a little bit weird. We're kind of talking about some things that is a little strange here. I'm not a child sacrifice person. I don't go out and I don't do this type of idolatry of what's going on today. So a couple of takeaways though before we get started is, as I verify, this marks a significant change in Israel's relationship with God, what we're seeing here in Judges. God uses a special visitation to communicate the seriousness of breaking the agreement with him, and no one can escape the consequences of disobeying God. Even though we're talking about Israel, even though he's talking about never breaking his covenant with him, you still cannot escape some consequences of disobeying God. So why did they turn so quickly? Why did they forget the covenant? Why did they tend to lean towards following the gods that were a snare or a trap for them? So I don't know. I'll ask you guys. What do you think? Why the quick? If you have an actual visitation from an angel, I tend to take that a little bit more serious than anything else, and they tell me the dangers and the fears, and I quickly forget that, and I fall into false gods and idolatry. Does anybody have any thoughts on why that happens so quickly? It's just like Wednesday night youth. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's a good point. So where there is no leader, there's no leadership. The people tend to kind of go off track. They tend to follow something that is there or something that can lead to them. I kind of boiled it down to there was more short-term benefits. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. So kind of follow along with what David was saying is I don't have a leader. I don't have a plan. Or I may even not like that plan. This is going to gain me more enjoyment in the short term than what is going to provide for me in the long run if I continue to follow this covenant that God has set upon me. So, all right, here's where we're going to get started. It's kind of like a little introduction to kind of set the tone for where I want to be, because the next thing that people are going to say is like, but Ben, we're under grace and not the law, right? This is the Old Testament. This is the law. This is the covenant. This is, and this is what you always hear about. Like, hey, I'm under grace. I'm not under the law. I don't have to abide by this. I don't have to abide by that, which is true to some extent. I'm not smart enough to contradict that or argue with anybody about that. I live my life two ways. One, love God. Two, love others. If I do that, everything else falls into place, and that's how I try to live my Christian life. So this is the thing. All right, hey, Ben, we're under grace, not the law. And here's where I want to go with idolatry or idols. This is just something that happens in my life. I share that with the people that I'm with, whether it be in here, at Young Life, or in the youth group. So I use this illustration. So when we go on a vacation or a long road trip, let's say we've got a 12-hour drive to Orlando, which we have done. As soon as we leave the driveway at Sissonville, I plug my phone into the charger and I dock it, and that's where it's going to stay for the next 12 hours until I reach my destination. It is charging, and that is my phone is what I'm going to use. Now, before I get out of the driveway, Avery yells, I need internet. Turn the internet on, because she has to connect her iPad so she can play her games for the 12-hour drive. So Erica says, Daddy's phone's charging. Tell Daddy Mommy don't want to turn on her hotspot. So I turn on my hotspot on my phone. Avery's iPad connects to my phone, and for the next 12 hours, she will use my internet on my phone as we go down the road. Before we get out of Sissonville, Elijah's like, Dad, connect my Nintendo Switch so I can play Minecraft with all of my friends. All right, buddy, Daddy's phone's charging. Hit the button. Now Avery's iPad and Elijah's Nintendo Switch is connected to my cell phone for the next 12 hours while we take this drive. I do not know where I'm going for 12 hours. I cannot read a road map, Preacher Dwight. I can read Google Maps. So I type in our destination, and my phone tells me which way to go. So now we've got Avery's iPad, we've got Nintendo Switch, we've got Google Maps, and we are going down the road. Erica wants to download a book because she likes reading. So she doesn't want to use her internet because her cell phone's almost dead. So she wants to connect to my phone so she can download books to read on the 12-hour drive. So she connects to my phone, Avery's iPad, Nintendo Switch, Google Maps, Erica's Kindle, and we're going down the road. As I'm going down the road, everyone has ignored me now, Dave, because they're all doing their own thing. So what do I want to do? I want to listen to music. I want to listen to a podcast or something. So I stream my music. I pull up Spotify, and I'm just with myself, and I'm driving. So now we've got Avery's iPad. We've got the Nintendo Switch. We've got Erica's Kindle. We've got Google Maps. We've got me streaming music. And that's kind of where we're at. Those are 5 things, right? I'm still plugged in. I'm charging. When I get down to Orlando and we check in and I go to pull my cell phone, I turn the car off, put my cell phone in my pocket, and I go and I get it out. I'm like, I'm on like 35% battery. Like, how does that happen? Like, I charged it the whole way, and it should be at 100%. But there was so many other things drawing from that power source that it couldn't stay charged. So where are you trying to go with that, Suze? Glad you asked. Jesus is our power source. I am Ben Lancaster. But so many things in my life are plugged into me that it is draining and pulling me away from 100% of my power source. And that's where we're going to talk a little bit about idolatry and what the New Testament has to say, and some things that may be good in our life but still take away and drain us from 100% power source. If all of those items were disconnected from my cell phone while I drive to Orlando, when I get out of the car in Orlando and nothing else is connected to it, Lynn, what's my battery percentage? 100%. But instead, I have connected so many things to this cell phone that even with the power source being connected to it, I'm not at 100%. I've lost 60% of it in just 12 hours. So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit. And we're going to reference some New Testament references about idolatry and where we want to go. So the first thing I ask is, all right, what is an idol? I think of an idol as a little Buddha statue, some sort of pagan god, some sort of golden calf, something where everybody falls down and worships and rents their clothes and sacrifices and drains their blood to it and all that stuff. Like, you think that's what an idol is, right? But an idol can be defined as anything that takes the place of God in one's life, anything that absorbs one's heart and imagination by providing a sense of meaning, value, or security that only God can truly offer. And I deal with this on a daily basis, especially with teenagers and kids. I want to read that again. It's anything that can provide a sense of meaning, value, or security that only God can truly offer. I'll emphasize that idols can sometimes be good things, right? I mean, when I say that, like, not a idol, but something that is perceived or is taking away from us can be a good thing. Can be something that, is not something like a sin nature, right? But it is something that when we think is okay, it's just drawing us and distracting us and draining us from having the power of Christ in our life. But if these things become a God, a little g, in our lives, then they start to control us and dictate our worth. It often leads to disappointment and devastation when these gods fail or are lost. And so that's what we're going to look at. We're going to look at a couple of New Testament references. And my whole goal here is to remind myself and to remind you of just things in my life that I'm not going home and getting in a closet and sacrificing animals to a pagan god. I am not that person. I am not, doing devilish carnality things with prostitution and whoring myself out to other gods, right? But there are a couple of things in my life that I need to work on that's taking away from having a full 100% power of Christ in my life. So that's something that I want to work on, and it's something that may help you guys. So the first one we look at is 1 Corinthians 10:14, where it just says, this is New Testament references, so to get away from the judges of the Old Testament and the law, it says, wherefore, my dearly beloved, flee from idolatry. It's pretty self-explanatory. There's no need to check other references or other translations or try to get the Greek or the Hebrew or anything like that. It's basically pretty self-explanatory. Flee from idolatry. And then I gave you what I think my definition of idolatry really is. And this is just a strong warning that Paul has to the believers to avoid idolatry in any form. It can lead us away from a true worship and harm our relationship with God. We must actively run away from anything that can compete with God. In any fashion, run away from it, try to get away. Flee from idolatry. Second one's going to be 1 John 5:21, which just states, little children, keep yourselves from idols. Amen. That's word for word. Pretty self-explanatory. Paul was saying, John saying, even to the children, watch yourself, keep yourself from idols. Galatians 5:19 through 21 just basically lists the idolatry along the works of the flesh. If you read through that, idolatry is in that. Revelations 21:8 says it includes idolaters as those that will face judgment in any fashion whatsoever. And we've got a parable of the rich young ruler, which in summary, you've got a rich young ruler that asked Jesus, what must I do to inherit eternal life? Jesus has responded him to keep his commandments, not stealing, not murdering, honor your parents, etc. And the rich young ruler looks at Jesus and said, well, I've done that since I've been born. I've been doing that since I was little. So Jesus says, great, give away all your possessions, follow me. And sadly, the rich young ruler walked away because it's not what he wanted to hear. He had many great things. He had many great possessions that he held, and he did not want to give up those items in order to follow Christ. So those are the New Testament references. I've got the cycle of idolatry is still ruining lives today. So not only do we have the warning and the examples of judges, we have the example of the rich young ruler. We have, thousands of years of scriptures and references and stuff that's been translated for us to take heed. Still today in 2025, I believe that forms of idolatry is still ruining and taking away from our power source. I love like illustrations. I just, with my involvement with young kids, it's real easy to have illustrations to keep their attention. And one of the illustrations, which has been around forever, is you take a flashlight. You take a flashlight, you turn the room kind of dark, a little bit of what it is now. You click the flashlight on, it does its job, and it sends out a light. You ask them, all right, well, why is that? Okay, well, you've got the body, which is us, the flashlight body. The goal is to provide light, and the source of being able to do that is because you have a 9-volt battery or whatever you have inside of that. So the example is, let's take the battery out, let's replace it with something else, let's turn the flashlight on. Does it work? The answer is no. It does not work without the battery or the power source. Even if the power source is in there, let's put something in it and then put the battery on top of that. Does it work? No, it doesn't. It has to have that full 100% connectivity with the power source of the battery, and that's with Jesus. So keep that in mind of that illustration, the illustration of me with a cell phone and things that are plugged in to that cell phone, being able to drain that battery. And here's a couple of things. We'll hit these and then we'll be done. These are just things that I think that we deal with, that I deal with personally. Some good, some bad, some that, we're just like, oh, okay. The very first thing would be money. I mean, that's the root of all evil, right? Let's chase the dollar. Let's make as much money as we can. That is not a bad thing. I am not against money, especially if you have a lot of money and you want to donate it to the local Church of Restoration Baptist Church. I will gladly accept that, and we will do wonderful things with it. But when it becomes the main priority, when it is what we are chasing, if I take and I wanted to, but if I take the flashlight top off and I throw a bunch of quarters down into that, and then I put the battery back in and I try to turn the light on, the light will not come on. There's just too much that is taking away from the battery there. The second thing, I deal with this a lot, especially with kids, is identity. The identity of how we see ourselves, what defines us, what we put value on ourselves. It shapes all that, how we see ourselves and how we feel like people see us in our identity. I believe kind of shapes how we live and how we have a relationship with Christ. And I see that a ton with teenagers because it's a very sensitive time for them. They're trying to figure out who they are. They feel like if they look this way, then they're going to be accepted by certain people. They feel like if they change this in their life, or they can hang out with this crowd, there's this false sense of identity that they chase after in order to find value, validity into their lives. Sometimes the things that we identify with can distract us or even replace Christ in our lives. We can get so consumed with, I obviously do not, but I know a lot of people that love to go to the gym every day and they want to make their body the best looking body possible, right? I've missed that opportunity, but those people get consumed with that in their lives, like it just completely overtakes them. Some people, want to have a certain personality, or they're just consumed with having people, accept them or like them, and they find acceptance in that, But all that, if we focus on that instead of just having God allow our identity to play out, that can take away from what Christ is. And again, it's not bad. I mean, it's not bad to work out and treat your body as a temple and eat healthy and stuff. But if it starts to consume your life and takes away from, having the 100% power connectivity to Christ, then I think that can kind of go into an idol. A couple of examples that I hear. That I want to be successful. I want to be a good athlete. I want to be smart. I want to have a great career. And we seek validation in things and people. And I think that right there is one of the things that can take place of the power source of what Christ is, or draw from that. The third thing, I'm dealing with this a lot in my life now, is sports. Elijah is, getting more involved in baseball and sports, and just the schedule is just so much more intense than what it was when I was growing up playing sports. You've got winter work. This is just for one sport. You've got winter workouts. You've got practices. You've got private practices. You've got travel ball. You've got tournaments. You've got all-stars. Like, you could literally play baseball every day for hours a day in some sort of facility here, locally, that he can get involved in. And then it's even worse for basketball and football and cheerleading. And so some of these sports, it can really consume and take up that. I mean, I've seen travel parents and their character on a baseball field. And I'm telling you, like, if you think my mom's a great Christian lady, you let Elijah strike out, you'll definitely see some of her character come out. I can tell you that. Or if somebody throws and hits Elijah with a baseball, right? Mimi's coming out on the field. So these sports can certainly change your attitude. And I say that because Mom is not here. She did not come up to support me this evening, so I'm a little upset at that. But that's all right. I love you anyway, Mom. And so, yeah, sports can consume. Sports can take away. Sports can be a great thing. I mean, teach kids how to be competitive. I didn't get a participation trophy whenever I grew up. If I came in first, I got a trophy. If I came in last, they told me that I did terrible and we came in last. Right now, everybody gets a trophy, right? I mean, sports can be great. It can teach discipline. It can teach competitive. It can teach that somebody out there is always working hard, and you have to work hard in order to be better. I mean, that's what we try to teach Elijah. Hey, man, if you want to be the number one shortstop, well, you have to practice, train hard, and be better than the other kid that's playing sports, that's playing shortstop. And that's how it works. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it can take away from our power source. The other thing would be addiction. We look at addiction as something like pornography, or drinking, gambling, some of those things that you have. I'm telling you, the biggest addiction that the world has right now is exactly what I'm doing right now with technology. We are so reliant and addicted to technology. I can't do this lesson here tonight without an iPad, a MacBook running through our screens. We just tried to sing 2 songs and we didn't have screens and no one knew the words to Power in the Blood. We've just become so numb to what has advanced technology-wise, and it has helped us phenomenally. Like, I can do things more proficiently. I can provide things financially for the church. Just before church started, Red came and we had a little thing that we were doing back and forth there with the financial. I got on the computer, and in the course of 10-15 seconds, I generated a document, signed it for him to file and be able to do that, right? Technology is wonderful, but it is also the most addicting thing that I think that we have out right now. Our cell phone, the statistics and stuff are just continuing to rise as far as like how much time we spend on our phones. And we call them screens. With the kids, they get a certain amount of screen time. How much we spend with technology as opposed to how much we spend with Jesus himself. Even reading my Bible, I'll be honest with you. Pastor Adam's not here. He kind of gave me the pulpit, and maybe the last time. But even my Bible reading is technology. Like, I don't really find myself that often cracking the Bible open when I can like read it on my iPad, or I can be driving for 2 or 3 hours for my job and have it playing. Somebody will read me the Bible on my phone, right? So that kind of like, hey, while I'm driving, I'm still doing that, right? But there is that connectivity that we have with God when you're just by yourself. You get some pages underneath your finger there, and you're able to really spend some time. But technology has even advanced us to where we can take our worship and kind of water it down a little bit and take away from that connectivity and 100% power source of Christ. Not a bad thing, but it can lead to something like that. So I have that in there for addiction. A couple more things here. We've got family, and I love my family. I think God obviously prioritizes the family. He places value on the family. It's part of His design. You look at Ephesians chapter 6, the first 4 verses is, children, obey your parents. Honor your father and mother. Fathers, don't provoke your kids to wrath, which I need to work on. But some of those things, God prioritizes the family. And I'm not using that as a bad example, but there's a lot of times where family can lead down to, some disconnect with Christ. It can drain you. They can set some unrealistic expectations for you in some fashion. You could find some disappointments. Family members will let you down. Friends will let you down. I will let you down. I am sure of that. So there's that. When that stuff happens, it can kind of pull your 100% connectivity from Christ. Not a bad thing. Family is great. I love a close family. I love my family, my extended family that I married into. We are treated as one. I'm not treated as an outsider, and I don't think Eric is treated as an outsider with our family. Like, it's been that way, and it's great, but we let each other down. We have expectations for each other. We disagree about some things, and it causes some rifts and stuff like that in our lives. But, God has created family. He has set it up as a priority for us. But if we can, fixate on that and fixate on some things that are outside of our control instead of turning it over from God, then we're obviously going to drain our battery down to 100 from 100%. Another thing is ministry. Ministry is a great thing. Ministry is set up for us to serve. We have a ton of opportunities to serve here. Ministry can also become so focused on what you have. You can become so focused on that you miss the true essence of Christ and what you are trying to do. The example of that would be Mary and Martha. When Jesus comes there in Luke 10, Martha was busy getting the house in order and preparing for Jesus. Whereas, Mary was just kind of chilling and wanting to really focus on Him and be a part of it. And there was some conflict there. Like, Mary's like, Jesus, what in the world? I'm out here trying to... she has become fixated on making sure that everything is right for Jesus, that she missed Jesus literally visiting with her. I've been a part of that, and it's easy to do that. It's easy to, like, when I sit down in the congregation, I'm waiting for the microphone to pop or squeal because I'm like, oh man, I got to go fix that, right? Or, the batteries go dead and Dave's not here. We're just like, oh my gosh, like, you can get so fixated that you miss out on the service. You miss out on the actual presence of God. When you come to my house, if you are coming to my house, my wife will literally make us clean the house from top to bottom. Everything will have to be scrubbed. Everything will have to be replenished. We will make sure that we have snacks and everything for you. I am not that way. She is. I don't care what my house looks like, Red. When you come over, I'm not going to clean the toilet for you, but my wife will make me clean the toilet for you, right? But we will be so fixated on trying to make sure you're having a good time. Do you need anything? Can I replenish your drink? Oh my gosh, this is going on, right? That we have missed out on our guest coming in and spending some time with us. And we do that a lot in ministry. Ministry can become so addicting to your life. I could put so much focus on trying to make sure that everything is going properly that I have completely missed out on the service in itself. Just by taking my time away from that. Lastly, politics and ideologies. That is a little bit of, if I take the flashlight lid off, and I have an elephant and a donkey, Democrat, Republican, Independent, right? And I put them in this flashlight, and I try to turn the flashlight on. Flashlight is not going to come on. I'm not really big on politics or ideologies. I've tried over the last couple of years, like I said, There's two commandments that Christ gives: love God and love others. And that's really the true focus that I have and that I care about. Unfortunately, right now, and it has been this way, is politics and ideologies will tend to divide and will tend to mislead and cause division within our church and within our brethren. I've got here: politics and ideologies are powerful forces shaping beliefs and actions. But when they become more important than Jesus, then they can distract, divide, and distort our faith. The Bible speaks of peacemakers. Blessed are the peacemakers. The Bible speaks about being unified in Christ. The early church is often faced with division, but what was called to unity in Christ above all. Unfortunately, that is not the case today. Our ideologies are not bringing us close to Christ. They are becoming more important than the true calling and the commission of Christ, which is to lead people to the Lord, bring them to church, show them the God's love, show them what Christ did and how they can get to heaven, and then everything else God will work out after that. Unfortunately, I can say this: I'm sure nobody watches our live stream when I am preaching, when I'm teaching, so they probably won't care. Our camp of Baptists are completely divided. It is absolutely nuts out there. People calling out people in the people calling people out, hey, this guy's doing this, this guy's doing that, this guy likes this music, this guy likes that music. Like, that is doing nothing to unify the church and bring validity to Christ whatsoever. And that is the idolatries and stuff that just literally makes me sick, is that everybody out there is just spewing their personal preference and opinion and backing it up with what they believe is biblical beliefs and manipulating the Bible to show that, to kind of echo their preference. And it is doing nothing but letting sinners and people that need Christ look back and laugh at Christianity. And that's what it's doing right now. It's completely mind-blowing. And it's happening not only in the Baptist. I mean, it happens throughout religion. But it is something that consumes us and takes us away from the 100% power of Christ. Instead of unifying and trying to put ourselves to further the kingdom of Christ, politics and ideology tend to just completely separate us. It's not bad by any means. You can have the knowledge and you can have your preferences and your biblical beliefs and stuff like that, and I will totally respect it. But when it gets to the point that it is causing division within Christianity and showing how embarrassing it is to outside of the local church and outside of Christianity, I think that's where we have a problem. All right, I'm finishing up here. I do this a lot with our youth. It's because we want to say, like, all right, Ben, we've talked a lot. You've talked a lot. What do we want to do with that? So here's some application. Here's some application of what you can do. Evaluate yourself. What do you spend your time, your money, your energy on the most? What do you run to for comfort? What do you run to for your identity? How do you validate your identity outside of Jesus? What's one thing? I always try to give a challenge to our youth group. What's one thing this week, just 7 days? I don't ever ask for a lot of things from our kids, and I try not to ask a lot out of me. What's one thing this week that we can fast from and focus on Him? Whether that be, anything that I discussed, whether it be something that's taking your waves, something that, what can you unplug from your phone while you're driving to Orlando in order for that not to reach down to 60%? What is one thing? The second thing is to pray. After that, after you evaluate yourself, ask God to reveal anything that is competing with Him in your life. And I use that word competing because I don't want idolatry to sound like it's some sacrificial thing, because it is, but yet it's also just something that competes with God. So pray for that. Replace it. Actively replace items with time in prayer. So when you are fasting this week or you're looking for something, ask God directly, show me what I need to replace. And with that, replace it with prayer, replace it with scripture, replace it with service to others. Get out there and do something for someone else. Make a phone call. That's a lot of people hate on talking on the phone, right? Send me a text, send me a message, do whatever. I don't want to talk to somebody on the phone. Call your grandma, call Miss whoever that you need to spend some time with. Use that opportunity this week instead of scrolling through Twitter and X and TikTok for 2 or 3 hours a day. Unplug. Actively eliminate anything that's draining your power source. That's basically the point of my lesson here this evening. And then lastly is accountability. Share with someone who can help you stay focused on God. I'm real big on accountability. I'm real big on having people in my life that I reach out to outside of our church that I call mentors. They check on me. They are older than me. They put me in my place. They ask me specifically, how are you treating your wife? How are you treating your children? How are you doing on this? And I asked them that years ago. Hold me accountable for things like have hard conversations with me. I have questions. You may not have all the answers, but I need some people in my life that I don't see every day that are checking in on me and holding me accountable for. So share that with someone. Share it with someone of a like faith that can hold you accountable, that understands what you're going through, that can help pray through some of those things. So share that, and hopefully that can help us stay focused on God. That is it. That is all. I apologize for a lot of words that I say and that I spoke this evening, but it's something that I deal with. It's a very easy, probably silly illustration as far as your power source, but there are things that we just need to be reminded of. Hey, these things are taking away from me being connected to Jesus 100%. 60% of Jesus is not 100%. And Judges' disobedience, a little disobedience was still disobedience. So I hope that it kind of made sense. Hope I was able to tie it together. Appreciate it. It is after 8:15 now, so pray for everyone as they're coming back. If you've got anything that you need from us, let us know. Pastor Adam will be back. We will be here Sunday. Saturday night is our back-to-school bash. If you want to come out and be a part of that, that starts at 7. That's at Little Creek Pool, which is just right down the road and up the hill there. So, all right. Did I miss anything? Anybody got anything as we close? Thanks, Dad.